This is not just the battle of the two blues, it's also the battle of traction, because we've got a Grand Touring front-wheel drive and a Grand Touring all-wheel drive. Hey, I'm Jonathan Sewell Sales at Mitchell Mazda on the Boulevard in Enterprise, Alabama, and I'm standing with two beautiful CX-5 Grand Tourings. One is front-wheel drive and one is all-wheel drive. And we're going to talk about the i-ACTIV all-wheel drive and the off-road traction assist as quick as I can to show you its benefits, pricing, and why you'll appreciate it. Let's jump in.
More car vids. More car vids.
Okay, let's get started before the lights go down in the city. So this is a 2021 Mazda CX-5, and this is pretty unique. Both of these vehicles were allocated during our new allocation process, which basically means, hey, here's a car, do you want it or not? And so this was a GT all-wheel drive, which typically we do not order. Usually we would go with like a Grand Touring Reserve or a Signature, which of course brings in the turbo and a few more features. But this is a standard GT, so no premium package all-wheel drive. And this, with the exception of 3 accessories, is a standard Grand Touring. And for the purposes of this video, although it's dark, we have the Eternal Blue and the Deep Crystal Blue. So both blues here on these beautiful CX-5s. And this one being an all-wheel drive, and we'll compare prices and everything in a minute, but I did want to have a brief conversation about the i-ACTIV all-wheel drive. So defaultly, the CX-5 is a front-wheel drive vehicle. So when these wheels have traction, there's no problems. Go up and down the road. However, in a situation with limited accessibility of traction, such as wet, sandy, snowy, muddy, whatever the situation may be, when these wheels lose traction, torque is sent back to the rear wheels to allow better traction in those situations. However, what makes Mazda's i-ACTIV all-wheel drive unique is it's not the loss of traction that actually sends that torque back. I know you're thinking I just said that was the case. However, with Mazda's i-ACTIV all-wheel drive, it wants to have the torque back there before you lose traction up here. So actually what happens is it's a predictive system. So most all-wheel drives, when you lose traction here, the system goes, oh no, we need more traction, and sends it back here. However, Mazda is so focused on Genba E-TI, horse and rider is one, and the overall driving experience, that they do not want you to lose traction and then there be that unstable situation for a few moments to send torque back there. They want to predict where traction in the front or rear is needed, or when the front is lost. How do they do that, you say? Well, it uses 27, that's right, 27 different sensors. So let's just think about this for a minute. When we're driving down the road and it's a day like today that was 92 degrees, the onboard system knows that it's 92 degrees outside, okay? Now let's say that we had the automatic wipers on and it started to rain. Well, the system would also know that the wipers were on. Now let's say that we were in a different part of the country, maybe a different time of year, and it was 20 degrees outside and we had the wipers on. Well, the system is taking effect, and those are just one example of some of those 27 sensors of what it pays attention to. Also, it would be able to sense the actual traction sensors in the front wheels. So if there's a little bit of something going on because of the terrain, it's monitoring that as well. Several other factors involved, but 27 sensors it's monitoring at 200 times a second. So for 200 times a second, it's saying, hey, do we need to shift torque back here? So that's one of the beauties of the Mazda i-ACTIV all-wheel drive system. Now, since 2020, every model has had this little button right here, the off-road traction assist. Now, every front-wheel drive, and we'll show you in just a minute on the front-wheel drive, says TCS for traction control. So that TCS or traction control means that's actually a default system. That TCS buttons means to turn it off. So traction control on this front axle means when there's slippage about that distance, so about 8 to 12 inches, it will actually throttle down the engine until traction is regained, so that you will not just spin the tires. It throttles down until enough power is reduced for traction to be regained. Okay, the off-road traction assist button, what that does is when traction is lost up front here, it throttles down, and then when it realizes that, hey, we need to accelerate, it applies the brakes to other cross tires or wheels and quits reducing that throttle, so it puts torque wherever it needs to go, whichever wheel needs it, to allow you to drive out of a system. So in some cases, you would lose traction up front, and so it would brake this wheel instead of just throttling down. It would brake this wheel and send traction to the opposite wheel, the rear, the front, whichever that needed to be, to allow you to accelerate out. So both of these systems are available with all models: Sport, Touring, Carbon Edition, Grand Touring, and then of course standard on Grand Touring Reserve and Signature. i-ACTIV all-wheel drive requires no input from you other than just daily driving. It will handle the front to rear torque. The off-road traction assist requires you to engage that button. And again, to show you where that's at, it's right up here. Engage this button and turn it on. So basically what you're doing is telling the system, hey, I don't want you to continually throttle down. I may need that acceleration to get out of this situation when I'm off-road. So let's talk about pricing. So this is just a standard Grand Touring. No ads, no roof rails, no anything like that. And you can see nothing here. And it is, with all-wheel drive, $33,135. Also, the fuel economy is 24 city, 30 highway, or 26 combined. Over here, starting with fuel economy, we have 25 and 31. So 1 mile per gallon difference, 28 combined. And this one has, you can see the accessories: rear bumper guard, roof rack, and wheel locks. So when you subtract those accessories there from this $32,325, the difference of all-wheel drive is only $1,400. So for $1,400, you can pick up extra traction and the off-road traction assist, which provides extra traction and more control of your acceleration. Now, if you'll notice, there was only 1 mile per gallon difference. That 1 mile per gallon is not that great of a difference for more traction. How they accomplish just 1 mile per gallon difference, whereas sometimes between transfer cases and things like that, there's more weight. So when they were developing this vehicle, from the CX-7 was similar as far as passengers here. So they reduced the weight of the all-wheel drive system by 46%. And that helped lower the fuel economy. So the fuel economy is actually 76% better than it was on the CX-7. So 46% lower weight, and 76% through other changes better fuel economy in the system. So CX-5 i-ACTIV all-wheel drive. Oh, and by the way, the i-ACTIV all-wheel drive is the same system on every Mazda with all-wheel drive. So CX-30, CX-5, CX-9, all i-ACTIV all-wheel drive is predictive, and you have off-road traction assist now. So the model difference is $1,400, unless of course there's other accessories on that vehicle. So maybe a little bit longer than I expected, but drop a comment below if you have any questions on the CX-5 or the i-ACTIV all-wheel drive. Again, beautiful eternal blue here, all-wheel drive, and then deep crystal blue front-wheel drive. I'm Jonathan Sewell Sales at Mitchell Mazda on the Boulevard in Enterprise. And if you want to reach out to me directly, you can call or text at 334-718-0504. And, comment below if you have or appreciate all-wheel drive and how it has worked for you, and if you've tested the off-road traction assist. If you'll stay tuned to later in the week, I will edit where I was off-road using the off-road traction assist and the i-ACTIV all-wheel drive. So it was a little bit of fun and a little bit of mud. But if you have any questions or comments, you can always drop them down below, and I would appreciate if you'd share some of your stories or experiences in low traction areas where you needed the all-wheel drive. I really can't wait to see you and hear about the stories in your beautiful Mazdas.
More car vids. More